Hey everyone. So you've probably walked right past one of these things in a gas station or convenience store and barely even noticed it, the Bitcoin ATM. But lurking behind that unassuming screen is a really serious, growing threat. It's a tool that's fast becoming a scammer's absolute favorite weapon.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. The AARP's Fraud Victim Support Center, the people who are on the front lines of this stuff, they call it, and I quote, the #1 preferred method of criminals. Let me just let that sink in for a second. How on earth did a piece of tech become the top choice for fraudsters?
And look, this isn't just a handful of sad stories we're talking about here. No, this is ballooned into a full-blown epidemic. And the numbers, well, they're nothing short of staggering.
Okay, get ready for this number. $250 million. That's how much money was lost to online scams that were laundered through these crypto ATMs in just the last year alone. It's an unbelievable amount of money, just drained from everyday people, one scary transaction at a time.
But you know what's even scarier? The speed at which this is growing. The money lost to these scams has literally doubled in a single year. This isn't some slow-moving issue. It's an absolute explosion.
So what even is a Bitcoin ATM? Well, it's pretty simple. It's basically a machine you feed cash into, and poof, it turns that cash into cryptocurrency and sends it off into the digital world. But here's the kicker. The three magic words for any scammer: fast, anonymous, and irreversible. It's the perfect recipe for a crime.
You know, these giant numbers, they can feel a little abstract, but behind every single one of those dollars is a real person. And to really, truly understand the devastating human cost here, we need to talk about a woman named Fran Bates. Just try to imagine this for a second. You're 85 years old, and you get a phone call from someone who sounds so convincing you believe they're from your bank, and they tell you that everything you've ever worked for, your entire life savings, is in danger. That's the panic and the terror these scammers create. They told Fran she had to act right now to protect her money.
Fran's story is just a textbook example of the scammer's playbook. First, they create that intense panic with the call. Then they isolate their victim, telling her to withdraw a huge amount of cash, in her case, more than $40,000. They then guide her to what they call a secure machine, and they stay on the phone with her the entire time, coaching her, pressuring her. But thankfully, her story has a twist.
And you can just hear the psychological trauma in Fran's own words. It really shows you how they manipulate you. The scammers build this bubble of fear and urgency where you can't think straight. As she said, they've got you right where they want you, completely under their thumb.
So there she is. Fran is literally seconds away from losing her entire life savings. But another customer in the store, a woman named Mindy Jordan, she just knew something was terribly wrong. She called the police. And that's when Lieutenant James Stewart showed up, walked right up to Fran, took the phone, and shut that scammer down, stopping the transaction at the last possible moment.
And in a story that's frankly pretty dark, this is just a wonderful moment of light. Lieutenant Stewart didn't just save her money, he went and got a cashier's check and delivered it back to her personally. It's just a powerful reminder of the good that's out there.
Fran was one of the lucky ones. So lucky. But her story forces us to ask a much bigger question. Why is this system so incredibly easy for criminals to exploit? Well, it turns out it's not a bug, it's a feature.
So here's the thing. It's not an accident that criminals love these machines. The speed, the anonymity, the fact that you can't reverse the transactions, it makes it the perfect getaway car for stolen money. Then you throw in weaker regulations compared to a regular bank, and on top of that, operators charging insane fees, sometimes over 20%, and you've got a system that's just begging to be abused.
The good news? Well, authorities are finally starting to catch on. Lawsuits are popping up against some of the biggest operators out there. In one case in DC, a lawsuit alleges that an unbelievable 93% of one company's transactions were linked to fraud, with the typical victim being 71 years old. Other companies are being accused of basically being silent partners to the scammers.
And this really gets to the heart of the matter, right? What is the responsibility of these ATM companies? Adam Zarazinski, who runs a crypto forensics firm, puts it pretty bluntly. When you see this much fraud, the operators either know or they're turning a blind eye.
Okay, so this all sounds pretty scary, I know. But here is the most important part of this whole thing. Knowledge is power. And we're going to talk about exactly what you can do to protect yourself and, just as importantly, the people you love from ever becoming a victim.
All right, if you remember one thing from today, let it be this. It is super simple. A scammer will
always pressure you to act immediately. They will always tell you to go withdraw a bunch of cash, and they will always direct you to a crypto ATM. A real bank, the IRS, the police, any legitimate agency, they will never, ever, ever do any of those things. Period.
So, if you or someone you know ever gets a call like that, here's what you do. 4 simple steps. First, stop. Just stop. Don't do a single thing they say. Second, hang up. Don't argue, don't engage, just end the call. Third, verify. Look up the official number for your bank or whoever they claim to be and call them directly yourself. And finally, warn others. Pay attention to the warnings that are actually on the ATM screens. They are there for a reason.
And that really brings us to the final thought I want to leave you with. You now know the playbook. You know the red flags to watch out for. But what about your parents, your grandparents, your friends? Do they know what this scam looks like? Sharing this information, having that one conversation, it might just be the thing that saves someone's entire life savings. Thanks for tuning in.